What's up, everyone? Welcome to the TDR Traded Black podcast. Happy Monday. I'm your host, sdales. Hope you all had a great weekend. What a week it was last week. Today, I think it's a healthy pullback. We're fine. It's in great shape. Let us know your comments below and what you thought of today's performance. I think we're still in great shape. Lots to break down here today, including a tweet from Ben Kovler from GTI yesterday that, again, sent a lot of drama creating in the Twitterverse. A lot of comments created on when rescheduling will happen. We'll break that down and get some thoughts from our insiders and what they think on dates rescheduling-wise and what they thought of that tweet as well. It appears all systems go in Germany for legalization of recreational cannabis. The big market with all eyes in the EU on Germany pertaining to cannabis legalization. So let's welcome in Anthony Verrill. Happy Monday to you, sir. Hope you're well, as it's MSOs Monday, as we bring in Dan Ahrens a little bit later on. Hope you had a good weekend.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. Yesterday was quite eventful. I tried to not jump into the Twitter mania that was going on that Ben Kovler ensued.
Yeah.
But it was good to see. I mean, it was a lighthearted comment. I mean, granted, Ben Kovler, I guess with great, I forget the quote, but whatever comes great responsibility.
Yep.
He's got a lot of responsibility. I mean, when Ben Kovler says something, it carries weight. For the CEO of the one company that would probably be fine without Schedule 3.
Bingo.
It means a lot. You would think that Ben has high-powered lobbyists and insights into what's going on, and he said he'll take the after of 125.25.
Yeah, you wonder if there's a strategy involved.
I mean, it's lighthearted fun. He's betting a hat.
He's
not saying, hey, I'm going to put my GTI position on it, or hey, like this is actually what I'm hearing. It's Sunday Twitter antics at best. Granted, he does have the power to move markets. But at the same time, I think it's kind of moot.
Yeah. Well, before you go any further, I see behind the scenes Cody Chandra is smiling. So let's bring in TDR Traded Black co-host Cody Chandra, who's listening to us talk. But I assume that you agree with a lot of the same sentiment as to what Anthony's saying, that, man, we live in a society where everybody takes everything so goddamn serious. Let's just all chill. This is just all in humor, don't you think?
Yeah, but listen, man, in the market when seconds matter, I think that's one of the reasons why that hyper focus is there, man. It could be the difference, for tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, or some people millions of dollars in some cases. So that's why that resonates.
That's a good point. When you put money on the line, it's like all fun and games go out the door because people get serious. So let's bring up basically this tweet. So Ben Kovler, who wrote yesterday, quote, Sunday GTI hat giveaway contest, closest to wins. What date will the DEA make an announcement decision on reschedule or leave as Schedule 1? No announcement or after 1/1/25 is the cap. Green thumb bud is fire. And later in a reply on the thread, he mentioned that he'll take the over on January 25th, 2025. And this created, as I said, a lot of frenzy, 181 comments pertaining to this tweet. But nothing more to think about this from what I'm reading from you, Anthony.
No, I mean, it is what it is. I think it's lighthearted fun. It's social media antics. I mean, Ben's Ben. I would say that Ben is probably an outlier amongst the MSO CEOs, as both personality-wise, the way that he engages everybody on Twitter, and just the way that he's known around the space. I think he was just trolling everybody and just having a little bit of fun. But like I said, unfortunately, Ben Kovler
got the reaction that he wanted.
Unfortunately, Ben Kovler has the ability to move markets. Granted, cannabis sector was on fire last week. I think whether Ben tweets that or not yesterday, we're probably seeing similar price action to what we saw across the board today in the entire sector.
Yeah, I hear you. Got some feedback here. I'm with Anthony. This was just Ben poking some fun. Another comment, Lucas Roya writes, anyone find out any information on the sell-off with Air on Friday? Either one of you guys care to elaborate on what you thought based on, that was, 23% down on Friday? Yeah.
No comment. Not too.
I thought that was going to happen. The record date for the warrants, if I'm not mistaken, was yesterday, February 5th. Some people hold the stock. Some people wanted to just get the warrants. I don't think it was expected. I mean, I think Air wound up even on the day today after that price action on Friday. they'll rebound. I don't think that's anything really fundamentally wrong with the stock.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, we had a little bit of a red today, but would you guys categorize today as the kind of like a healthy pullback? It wasn't much of a pullback, but good for the industry considering the run that we did last week, Cody?
Yeah, 100%. Listen, we're obviously a lot of the people that are listening to this have been riding this roller coaster for the last several years. So to be expected. And listen, the problem with having these giant runs is as soon as there's one red day, then it creates a panic among the day trading community. I mean, if we watched it as we were in some of the bigger names and the smaller names, they get hammered anytime a little bit of blood is in the water. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah, agree with you there. Do you want to say something, Anthony? Sorry.
No, I was going to say it's a pullback. I mean, it's a pullback. I mean, the names aren't down on screaming volume. I mean, it's muted across the board. They're down 1.5% to 10%. I mean, Consortium today is down 10%. Consortium is up 100%, I think, in the last 7 trading sessions. I own a bunch of it. I'm watching it closely. I was actually pretty happy today as it was one of the green names on my screen. And then I think after about 1:30, it just rolled over and it was down 15% intraday at the low. But like I said, I'm up 100% on it in the last 7 days. These things don't only go up.
And let's put this in perspective. The index is up 70% over the last 90 days. You know what I mean? This has been
I don't want to say go out and buy because that's financial advice, but I mean, on days like today, I would look at my portfolio, I'd make some moves and kind of just plan accordingly. But I mean, I don't see the floor dropping out anytime soon, unless Schedule 1 staying, and they literally announce it tomorrow.
John Embeck writes, hi, gents, no investment advice. Can you give us your approximate estimate of the cannabis plumbing will be cleaned out of those sell-off shares? How many remain approximately? Don't know the numbers off the top of our head, but we can look into that a little bit later. As well, thoughts on Don Murphy news. I didn't get a chance to see the tweet, but thoughts on Don Murphy news in Pennsylvania. Did he tweet something out today?
It's the third segment on Into the Wire.
Yeah, we're coming up there.
Oh, apologies. Yeah. My apologies. All right, let's go into
as far as the cannabis goes, I brought the water bottle back, and they're one of the only green names in the space today. So that's all you should need to know.
All right, let's segue into the Wire segment number 2, which is the Germans are coming. As we begin with Germany, where it appears that the government officials have finally reached a deal on cannabis legalization after disagreements over the details of the proposed legislation. So, Anthony, beginning with you, does this finally appear all systems go here in Germany?
It does. It does. I think both the liberals, the conservatives, and I think it was the Green Light Party that they had kind of donned it. I mean, this is big. This is a G7 nation legalizing cannabis at the adult use level. I don't want to take away from what Canada did, but I mean, in the global scheme of things, Germany carries a lot more weight, both population, economically. I mean, it's analogous to the United States in terms of their GDP and their output. This is big. Germany going adult use is big, and it's usually the other way around. Usually from a usually from a regulatory standpoint, the United States will set the precedent and set the stage, and then you see the European nations follow. Yeah. Germany puts this through on April 1st. They join Luxembourg and Malta, who honorable mentions, I guess, but they become the largest country in the world to legalize adult use cannabis.
Dude, 85 million people in Germany. I think that's something that probably isn't talked about a lot, man. 85 million people. And heard through the grapevine that some of the distributors on papers, bongs, glass are starting to ramp up shipments over there. So yeah, that's going to move quick.
It's big.
We've talked about Cureleaf and Tilray being the main beneficiaries of this announcement. Who's a few other companies that come to mind, Cody, relating to the German market? If you had a chance to look at this market, who would benefit?
I honestly, I think Tilray is going to be the biggest winner.
Yeah.
Tilray, I'd have Tilray and Cureleaf being the biggest winners. I mean, Cureleaf with the customer-facing business, Tilray with CC Pharma. You can't really talk about the Tilray story without talking about CC Pharma and what they have over in Germany. And then you've got Kronos, Aurora, as well as Organigram, that all have exposure to the German market, but it hails in comparison. to Curaleaf and Tilray. It's going to be Curaleaf and Tilray is going to be the capital
Kronos
markets story.
Kronos was talking about selling their operations over there.
They haven't unloaded it yet. I don't really, to be honest, I don't even know why we talk about
definitely not going to
anymore.
now.
No,
Yeah.
Kronos is a bank as far as I'm concerned. They're
Yeah.
not a cannabis. They're not a cannabis business. But I think you absolutely are right. Tilray will probably be the biggest beneficiary of the German movement, with Curaleaf being right up there, if not 1A, 1B, as far as who's getting the biggest market share in the country.
Mungie Boy writes, High Tide in Germany already in talks for a joint venture with Sanity Group over there. Quick reminder, we're actually going to be sitting down with Raj Grover, CEO of High Tide, on Wednesday. We'll be posting that interview on Thursday. I know a few of you have reached out, so we'll make sure that we get that underway on Wednesday. And like I said, post that on Thursday. This is the TDR Traded Black podcast. I am your host, Shad Dales, with Cody Chandra and Anthony Verrill, as we now segue in to what it appears the third segment, keeping on the topic of adult use legislation. Let's now switch to Pennsylvania and legalization, where growing interest and confidence is quickly building. Anthony, you want to explain a little bit further what I mean by that?
Yeah, so Don Murphy was actually at a committee meeting today in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He tweeted this out live. The chairman of the committee, quote, and this is quoting him, this cannabis legalization is going to happen, and there's nothing that we can do to stop it. And there's nothing that we can do or that is going to happen that can stop it. He led Don to believe that Pennsylvania is on a collision course to legislating adult use cannabis into law. This would be huge. I mean, we talked about Pennsylvania in short order last week. It's going to be, I think, a market that's going to be a key focus moving forward. The poll that we launched this morning, asking our audience, who do you want to see us covering as far as deep dives into emerging markets in the United States? Pennsylvania, by leaps and bounds, I think took 50% of the vote. There's a lot of big MSOs in this state. TruLeaf has 20 dispensaries. Curaleaf has 18. GTI has 18.
Of 127 total.
Yeah.
Let's
Jushi,
talk about how big that number is.
I know.
Yeah.
Jushi has 17. Verano has 17. Cresco has 14. That's the top 6 holdings in the state. To my surprise, I got called out on Twitter this weekend for not knowing anything about PA, saying TruLeaf was going to replicate what they did in Florida in Pennsylvania. I was talking about their market share as far as leading as in terms of retail, and as far as being a market leader in the space. From what I can see from actual PA patients, the fan favorites right now in the state are GTI and Cresco. And Cresco continues to capture market share in a key market such as Pennsylvania.
What's this market potential overall size? Is it 4 billion?
I think it's 4 billion and change.
Yeah.
It's going to be big. Pennsylvania's another adult use catalyst. Pennsylvania, Virginia, Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I know Governor Shapiro has obviously been super on board this entire time, but I mean, the Republican state Senate there has seemed to throw up every roadblock that they possibly can.
I know. I think it's Don's quote's telling. I don't know his political party affiliation, but I would assume the chairman of this committee might be red. I hope he's red, and I hope they're coming to the realization that PA is going to go adult use, and the citizens of PA want adult use in the state, and we get it done.
Yeah. Mofo Live writes, still waiting on Ohio to start adult use sales. Any best guesses on timelines? Have you guys heard anything in regards to
PA?
Ohio?
I have not heard any. It's the timelines are going to be anybody's guess.
Ohio.
Oh, Ohio?
Yeah.
No, I haven't been looking into Ohio as of recent. I'll get him look into it. We'll have it ready for Wednesday to give an update on Ohio.
All right. This is the Traded Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales, with Cody Chandra and Anthony Verrill. Don't forget to like, subscribe, smash that like button, share your comments below. Let us know basically any companies that you want us to touch on. If we don't have the information now, we will make sure to look into it and provide you what you need and bring on the best thought leaders to elaborate a little bit more. As well, don't forget to log on to thedalesreport.com and subscribe to our daily newsletter, Baked In newsletter. And this week we got some pretty interesting equity research reports that's exclusive only to TDR Baked In newsletter subscribers. Doing some things based on some of the conversations that we've had, Anthony, with Professor Bill on what's badly missed in this research component regarding this industry, but doing things a lot differently than all the other, I would say, analysts that are out there. So something a must read, I would say, especially after our launch last week with MaryMed.
My guy's thorough. Bill is thorough. I mean, I've read a lot of research reports, and Bill's coming up with data sets and metrics that I'm not seeing in anybody else's research in the cannabis space.
Yeah.
It's impressive. If you want to get a real deep dive into what's going on, see some metrics you're not going to see in other people's research, I mean, it's a good follow. He had a great article today about inventory on hand and how inventory is aging and how that actually affects the MSO's balance sheets. That was a good read this morning, which I learned a new thing reading it.
All to benefit our audience and not the banks. So that'll wrap up segment number 1, Into the Wire. And we're now going to go into segue number 2. Cody, we'll check back in with you on Wednesday, but it's now time for MSO Mondays with Dan Ahrens. So cue up the intro, Mitch. Good day, sir. How was the weekend?
Hey guys.
Good weekend to say the least.
Good. Relax a little bit.
Yeah, I think what we said off the top, it was a healthy pullback. Nothing to look really into, but your thoughts on Monday, the first trading day of the week.
Yeah, it's no big deal, and we should expect a little bit of a pullback. And heck, it might even be a little lesson to some people that think these things can go just in one direction all the time. They don't. It's still going to be volatile. It's fine.
Yeah, that's for sure. What a week though. Before we get into like more specifics of this week, achieved the $10 threshold last week. Saw a lot of attention and interest pertaining to a tweet from Green Market Reports reporter John Schroyer, who said, "Imminent news." We'd like to use that word imminent probably 6 or 7 times in a podcast, but wow, what a week. And I think this is just a sign of things to come, even when, like we've discussed in the past, when we actually get an official announcement, which one can only hope, right?
Yeah, we're going to get it at some point, we think. I think a lot of people are 99% sure, but trying to time it or trying to guess the timing of it is, turned out to be ridiculous. So it's really nice to have this enthusiasm, these moves up without any real news, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing from a psychological standpoint, it's
are we delaying
almost,
a little bit, guys?
Are we delaying?
Yeah, we're delaying. Maybe bring up your phone like you did were you on your phone last week, Dan? I think that was a little bit better. Well, we lost him. I think he'll come back. Well, nothing would be not normal if it wasn't for Monday technical issues. Because we're ready.
No, I mean, I was going to say, from a psychological standpoint, it's almost impossible to time the market. And I mean, you can limit a little bit of downside, but with the announcements and the catalyst that we're looking for in the sector, you're not going to be able to outgain the potential. You're not going to be able to outstrip the potential upside from trading in, trading out. Like, obviously not financial advice, but a lot of the time sitting on your hands is not the worst thing to do.
Yeah, and I think it's a question. Maybe it's, I think investors are actually learning this more and more. As much as we want to play the short game, there's a lot of investors that are sitting tight and I think are being patient for a long play here because they can see as to what's going to be coming, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months.
We got him back.
Yeah, let's bring him back. You there now, my friend?
I am. That was strange.
That's much better. Much better. So anyway, as we were saying off the top, healthy pullback, really nothing to really talk about or discuss. But I know you wanted to bring something up, Anthony, before he got cut off there with the question.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of just wanted to we've been getting a lot of questions on Twitter, obviously. One of the ones has been, Dan, why are you selling MSOS from YOLO and reducing the position? I understand the psychology behind it. I understand the management process from a fund management perspective, but I mean, what's going on with that? And I guess let's just put that to bed once and for all as to why that's going on between the relationship between YOLO and MSOS.
It's crazy that anybody would question that.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
different funds. They're not meant to be invested exactly the same. I'm obviously pretty darn bullish on MSOs because we have the MSOs fund that owns virtually no ancillaries anymore. It's all in plant touching MSOs. It's $1 billion fund. The fund YOLO, actually its predecessor, it's a much smaller fund. And MSOs, the fund, where we waive fees. I got to remind people of that. We waive the fees. We're not double dipping by owning two funds. It's still more than 50% of that fund. So in a good week like last week, when MSOs is way up, pretty nice timing to shave a little bit off the top. Again, we sell the tax lots of high cost first. So even though it was a really nice week and it's grown like crazy, we're shaving some off the top for a tax loss in that fund. And once again, that fund still makes up more than 50% of YOLO. So now I'm perfectly happy with that move and think it's smart portfolio management. That's all.
Absolutely. I mean, another thing that we've seen is MSOX is becoming more popular week over week. I mean, it's starting to come into every conversation that we're having on Twitter around MSOS. Obviously, the 2x leverage gives you more upside, also gives you more downside on days like today. One of the things that surfaced was someone was talking about the relationship of decay on how MSOS and MSOX actually trades. I mean, could you give a little bit more insight on that, to the relationship between the two and how that statement, it's really not a decay between the two funds when you see the price discrepancy?
Well, yeah, there can be price discrepancy on any given day because please read the prospectus, read the warnings we have on our website. We have extreme volatility there. Please read all the stuff. And if you're not an experienced trader, don't fool with MSOX. But I saw some people raising questions about its movement today. Well, an issue was on Friday, the last trade went through at a big premium. So if you look at our website, you'll see that the official NAV was 715, but the actual last trade closing price on Friday was 733. That's a big premium. So that's why it looked a little bit overly down today. On an NAV basis, I expect it to be right around 2x MSOS. Now, another important thing, though, is on a daily basis, we usually target, I use the word target, 2x. We have to put in trades, a few minutes before the market close every day to try to target 2x. Sometimes there's extreme volatility at the end of the day, so it's impossible to hit. And there's also a lot of compliance testing, all sorts of things, daily variable amount at risk. So sometimes we have to dial it down to 1.95% or 1.9%. But on a usual circumstances, normal circumstances, it's targeting 2x on a daily basis. There you go.
What you're saying is there's a lot more actual science and breadth and depth that goes into the process between the two versus what we can see on a top line. From a top level perspective.
I don't have an automatic button.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen automatically.
I feel like people assume that you do to an extent. It's a symbiotic relationship that's always perfect between the two.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing's for sure, it's pretty imminent or pretty clear is, the lows are getting higher. And I think that's bodes well, as much as we get, these small little pullbacks, you're definitely seeing the lows are getting higher. And I actually did a background check on just Google came to searching the ticker symbol MSOs over the last 30 days, and it has gone through the roof. So to me, yes, it's a sign that cannabis investors are very well aware of this term, but this is a sign of things to come, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think we're just scratching the surface. And again, we're still waiting on, remember safer banking? We're still waiting on that, as well as just waiting on the DEA announcement. It's only going to heat up as we go more into this presidential cycle. So a lot of my job is making sure everything works properly with the fund and these total return swaps and the counterparties that we have to use. And we think everything's running pretty smoothly.
Yeah. Look,
I spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, I don't want to sit here and be like Mr. Rah, 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 and all positive. What are things that we have to be mindful of to still proceed with caution? Because let's face it, it is in cannabis space. So what are the things that you're looking at mindfully, to make sure that we're walking before we run?
Well, there's all sorts of things to unpack there, but let's remember we're talking about cannabis stocks.
Yeah.
We're talking mostly about OTC traded cannabis stocks on secondary exchanges in Canada. And even if we look at the biggest ones, Green Thumb, Curaleaf, compare its daily volume to Tilray, even Canopy and things like that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So spreads can be very wide. End of day movements can be very wide. While MSOs is hot, I think it's attracting some new investors, potentially inexperienced newbie investors that think this stuff can go to the moon. And there's going to be disappointments still. We hope and think we're getting a DEA announcement, but some people think we're going to get a DEA announcement, even if it comes, and everything's going to be done the next day. Mm-hmm. No, there's going to be comment periods and delays and administrative hearings, all sorts of stuff before everything's actually enacted.
Yeah, but that first
and
initial
all that stuff means ups and downs and volatility.
Yep, that's true. But that original. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Dan, we had another week go by. Any news on Curaleaf with being able to resolve the swap issue, or still kind of on pause at the at Bank of New York Mellon?
Bank of New York Mellon needs to approve Curaleaf on their formal cannabis non-permissible list policy. And Bank of New York Mellon's my custody bank for the fund. So we have to wait on that. I thought it was going to be a much quicker process, and it's not. So we're still following up with them. And actually, I'm in a lot of communication with Curaleaf on that issue as well.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the tweet that Don Murphy put out that it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. It's the cannabis legalization in the state of Pennsylvania is going to happen, and nothing we can do is going to stop it, which is something music to the ears, I think, amongst cannabis investors. But when we look at this state of Pennsylvania, this is a $4 billion market. When do you think, timeline wise, as to legalization will indeed take place within that state? Any idea?
I don't like to play with dates. If we were having this conversation 2 years ago, I would have thought we already had Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Hell, I thought we had Virginia under our belt too. But do you know what? I think Pennsylvania is definitely coming, much like that tweet said. And Pennsylvania is a huge state, an MSO friendly state, where there's a bunch of licenses already of companies that we invest in. So there's a whole lot to be excited about Pennsylvania. But the timing is the fool's game. It just adds another little layer onto good news that we are expecting.
Yeah. Imagine 12 months from now, Pennsylvania and Florida both in play. That would be incredible, wouldn't it?
That would be incredible. I think I'd like to think Pennsylvania's coming sooner. It's more administrative than just getting it on the ballot. But yeah, I think they're both coming. If I had to bet.
All right, let's move into this week. As I said last week, a lot of volume, a lot of interest, and a lot of euphoria pertaining to the space. But I want people to get some good takeaways. How are you preparing, positioning yourself heading into this weekend as we move into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, knowing that this interest level is going to remain strong, but historically, as we've seen a big rally within this industry, there's been somewhat of a pullback. So, how are you positioning yourself and preparing yourself for this week?
Well, it's funny. We talk about the fund as being actively managed. Actively managed simply means it's not an index. That means we can pick the stocks that we want to overweight, underweight, a few that we avoid. So we're kind of, holding the straight pattern. The fund is obviously very, very heavyweight in its top 5, 6, 7 positions. And that's not smart to change that. I'm not looking to tactically manage anything. I like the bottom part of the portfolio. They are very small. There's not a lot of downside risk there to the fund. But some of those actual tier 3, if we got to call them tier 3s, they might have some serious torque when we get some kind of federal reform and legalization.
Yeah.
So, my friend Todd Harrison likes to call it a barbell, where you got the top and you got the bottom, and they can inflate at different times. Right. So I like the makeup of the fund, and I'm not changing it in a big way. The other thing is the fund's been getting inflows of new creations every day or almost every day. Yeah. And the majority of that goes to work, and it's happening smoothly in percentage to the top of the fund. So we're keeping the fund in balance, similar to what it looks like now. But I also have a little bit of a cash cushion building up, which is fine with me. It's only a few $1 million. Relative to $1 billion fund, it's not all that much. But with that extra cash cushion of a few $1 million, I might pick and choose a little bit where I'm putting it to work.
Well, be interesting to see what the time will tell. But I think most importantly, the interest level is here. And I think things will obviously change over time. But you said the top 5 is put in place. But I think when it comes to the bottom half, I'm sure that you're you're evaluating things time and time again. And when that starts to come to fruition, we get some of these announcements made. I know there's going to be a lot of investors that are out there to see how that's going to be tweaked. And I'm sure you're going to be asked a lot of questions that you can't really answer right now. And we can't really say, hey, are you going to add this company? Like, yes, we could ask that question, but it's something you can't really answer at this time, which I totally get. But, a term I like to use in this show, needless to say, you're going to obviously consider a lot of that stuff when the time comes, when it presents itself, right?
Yeah. Well, one thing is it's hard to add too tiny of a company. I don't get to trade on Robinhood or Schwab or Fidelity and pay 0 commissions. This is institutional trading. There's costs. So, it's kind of immaterial to the fund, and it's hard to add too tiny of a thing. And somebody might say, oh, well, what about this 11-cent stock you have in the fund? Well, back in the good old days, a couple of years ago, when I added those positions to the fund, probably wasn't an 11-cent stock. Yeah. The other thing is, there's a couple other companies out there that could get added at any given time, because when we do get federal reform, it's going to be, what's that saying? A rising tide raises all ships. So, no, there's a couple other companies out there that I might add just to have more, let's call it capacity for this fund that we think is growing.
Yeah.
If and when you do identify companies that aren't currently within the fund, is there a target that you kind of are looking at as to how big of a position you want to take within the company from an overall like market cap perspective? Or is it kind of just, hey, we're going to wade in, we're going to start with here, and we're going to start building up to X as far as it is against our other holdings?
Well, it's hard to do. And, sometimes we can negotiate to buy a block of all at once instead of, adding 100,000 shares here and 100,000 shares there. Sometimes there's big chunks to start with before we start. I don't want to be hitting the ask on a small position and driving a stock up. Yeah, I know people that own that stock want me to drive it up, but no, I'm not wanting to drive something up unnaturally. The other thing is, people should look at the size of the fund, look at the stock that they're talking about and its market cap, and say, and its outstanding shares. Well, what if the fund tried to own 10% of that company, which is a huge owner's position? And then they'd say, oh, okay, well, that's not that much of the company, or it can't really be a top 10 holding or something. So keep, I know everybody wants me to push their stocks up, which
isn't that
manage the fund as best we can for the benefit of its shareholders. But
hey, Dan, I'm a shareholder of this stock. Can you put this in? Yeah, exactly. That is the truth.
Never heard that.
I actually before. I had a question. There's a question here from Guap. Can you explain how the mechanics of the ETF inflows changed recently?
They're talking about the after-hour trades that people were seeing on Friday.
Gotcha.
Any insight, or did you guys hear anything in regards to that? I mean, can you buy after hours, or because I know that you usually start to buy like in the end of the session as it relates to the ETF?
Yeah. So what people are seeing there, it's not actually an after hours buy. It might be hitting the tape after hours.
Gotcha.
It's the closing price of those stocks. And once again, I know people want stocks to move unnaturally, but unnaturally is a very important word there. So if there's market makers working in the fund, and there's potentially dozens of market makers in any stock, any ETF, whatever, they have shares of GTI and Curaleaf and TerraSend and Verano and TrueLeaf. What people are seeing there is a market maker reaching out to one of the fund's swap counterparties and saying, hey, we got all these shares and we're looking to sell them. And do you want to buy them?
Okay.
So we'll buy them at the end of the day. So it's a natural price. The price of a stock is the price of a stock. We're buying it at the end of the day so that those market makers aren't causing undue volatility at the end of the day.
So it's essentially what people were seeing Friday.
Funds growing. Yeah.
So essentially what people were seeing on Friday is a block trade. It was just block trades getting settled.
Yeah, and it's well, hold on. There was some real big volume in a lot of those underlying stocks after hours or at the close Friday. We were a portion of that, but I don't know what the heck was happening with a large portion of that volume. But one thing out there, sometimes there's cancels and corrects. Sometimes there's shares moving from one broker to another. So there was block trades. I don't know what the bulk of it was. I was a portion of that.
Okay.
Well, appreciate you obviously checking in every Monday to give us updates on that and some of the questions that people have. But this has been beneficial. And as usual, enjoy the rest of your trading week. We'll make sure to check back in with you next Monday and get a full update on how things progress. Let's see if we can have another week like we did last. But if we don't, I think the moral of this story is don't freak out, right?
True. Yes. Everybody remain
Way to
calm.
put it.
Yes, exactly. Listen, appreciate the time. I'll check back with you next month. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. And if you want to learn more about the emerging industries that we cover, then leave a comment below and let us know who you want us to interview, the questions you want asked, and the information that you want to learn. We want to hear from you. As usual, click on that bell for all notifications to get the latest information. Share this video with your network, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we would not be